Kevin Campbell, hello.
Hey there, Joe.
Welcome to Tribute Bands Are Us. You are the bass player and co-lead singer of a Steely Dan tribute band called Brooklyn Charmers, correct?
That's correct.
I'm a huge Steely Dan fan, have been for many, many, many years. It's extraordinary that someone can pull that off, is trying to play Steely Dan music professionally throughout the land. When did you start are you the founder of the group?
No, I'm not the founder. I just got a phone call like, "Hey, do you want to learn some Steely Dan tunes just to study them?" I said, "Absolutely." Do you want to hear about the founding?
Yes.
So all of us go back many years to high school, some even before to junior high. I've known the long-haired guitar player for 25 years before we even had instruments. But
Were you all in school together?
we were, yeah, except for the drummer. I think he grew up in Lake Zurich, Illinois. We all grew up in LaGrange, Illinois. So he was kind of northwest of Chicago. We were southwest of Chicago.
I played trumpet badly back in the day and still play it badly, but I still can play it. You played in the school, I'm guessing the school band when you were in fifth grade, eighth grade?
Yeah, I think we all had experience doing that, whether it was playing a horn, playing piano, playing an upright bass in the orchestra, doing drum line. I think we all had experience doing that.
What was your first ever instrument? When did you first play guitar? Was that your first instrument?
My first was piano. I started on the piano when I was about 10 years old. My mom really held me back from it because she just wanted to make sure my brain was like ready to like I was teachable, ready to learn things. So then when I finally sat down at the piano at the age of 10, like I was really ready to learn music. I was ready to learn things.
Were you jonesing to play piano at 9 or 8?
I was, but it was because I think it was because I had an older brother that was doing it, so I wanted to be like him. And then when he got guitars, when he started to get into like Led Zeppelin and whatnot, then I wanted to get guitars.
And was that the group of choice in your house, the Led Zeppelin?
It was definitely his. Mine was always the Beatles. Still is to the day. I love everything that they did. I think their songs are such great vehicles for learning music. But as you get more advanced, you can even appreciate like, wow, that idea that McCartney played there was perfect, or that idea that Harrison played there was perfect. So I'm definitely a Beatles boy. Steely Dan is for sure in my top five, though.
At the risk of being rude, what is a Brooklyn charmer? What is the street jargon? What is a Brooklyn charmer?
So that's a song off their first record, Brooklyn Owes the Charmer. But actually, when we started, Colin had this idea we're going to be called the Showbiz Kids. That's a tune off Steely Dan's second record, Countdown to Ecstasy. And so we recorded a couple studio videos that fortunately went viral. We were really lucky about that. And Colin bought like the Showbiz Kid drum head. So we were like branded as the Showbiz Kids. And we get a message, a
Ooh.
Facebook message from a really nice guy in Florida named Jeff. I'll never forget this. He typed out, "You guys sound great. I love your version of Reelin' and Josie and all that, but we're the Showbiz Kids." So he already had a band in Florida named that, and we just figured, we've been a band for like a week.
Were, were
This
they
is
were they a Steely Dan tribute band or no?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and I think they're still around, and they sound great. And Jeff was a great guy, so we just decided, hey, we've been around for like one week. This is like the best time to change our name.
Sure.
So we had an idea for I think like the Charlie Freaks. That was one of them. And then the Brooklyn Charmers. And I don't know, we really liked that because we thought it fit the bill for the sophistication of Steely Dan music.
It's a brilliant name, and I'm a namesmith myself, so I approve of Brooklyn Charmers. It really, yeah, yeah. I agree with your thinking. So you have been performing as the Brooklyn Charmers. When was your first performance, public performance as the Brooklyn Charmers?
It was July of 2019. We played at Colin's studio with his dad, Jim Peterick, who wrote all those great tunes for 38 Special, Caught Up in You, Hold On Loosely. He wrote Eye of the Tiger. Um, so we did a show with him in July of 2019, and then our first like actual like ticketed show was the next month in a suburb of St. Louis called Edwardsville, Illinois.
So Chicago is your hub, and you
Mhm.
go as far east as what?
We've been to Connecticut. We've played in Connecticut. We've played in New Jersey. We played in Massachusetts, right on the Atlantic Ocean. Um, but that just got really like time consuming getting there, really costly. And when we started to become self-managed, like we do everything ourselves, that's when we started to stay more in the Midwest, closer to home, closer to our families.
And yeah, what have you haven't performed in Canada, have you?
No,
How far west have you performed?
um,
Now we're getting somewhere.
no, we're not. Maybe like DeKalb,
Say that
which is
again.
DeKalb, Illinois, which is like 90 minutes away.
And what's the furthest south that you have played? Is this the furthest south or no?
No, we've been to Nashville.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
And Kevin, I barely know you all, but what little I know of you, I know what musicianship you have. I just know of it. I know it. You hear it, but you don't even have to hear it. You know it's Steely Dan. Someone's playing Steely Dan, they got to be great musicians and musicians. Have you recorded your own music? And if not, I demand that you do.
No, we definitely have. And we all
As the Brooklyn Charmers? No.
no, no. We've all worked closely with one another on original music. Um, when I did my album, everybody played on it.
Your
Um,
album, you had an album? You have an album?
I do. Yeah,
What
I do.
what's the name of it?
It's under my full name, Kevin Edward Campbell. It's on all the streaming services. It's the album is called "I Must Be Dreaming." It was a COVID project when there was nothing going on, but
Does it
we've all worked together on original music. Still to this day, it's just this Steely Dan stuff. It came so naturally, and we knew we had something when the videos started to go viral. We love being around each other. I mentioned the old friendships, so we're really tight. And this is just a great vehicle to one, play a band whose music we love, two, be together, and three, do it at like such a high level. I think all of us will always love and make original music. It's just like a itch that you have to scratch. Um, but the Steely Dan thing is just this really nice platter on the side that we're so grateful that we have.
the album that you did yourself, and you had help with it, of course, is
Mhm.
it Steely Dan sounding?
I don't really think so. I think Fagan and Becker are they're unicorns the way that they write. And I don't naturally write that way. My things come out more Beatle-esque, more like power pop. Like one of my favorite bands is Jellyfish from the early '90s. Um, and I don't know, that's just what naturally kind of comes out of me. Colin really tests himself, and Colin will say, I'm going to write a Steely Dan sounding song today, or I'm going to write an 80s Genesis song today. So he more so kind of he's like a chameleon the way he writes.
Have any of you seen Steely Dan live?
Oh yeah, all of us.
And have you ever met any of the band?
I know I haven't. I don't think any of us have.
But you saw you're the you're the Walter Becker fellow in the group, aren't you?
I think so. Yeah.
Come on. Yeah, yes, you are. You have a beard. You're playing bass. He plays bass or plays guitar.
He does both. He played a lot of the iconic bass lines like Josie and which is an awesome bass line, but he also he had a high knowledge of harmony. So he would come up with a lot of these chord structures, chord changes on guitar. So I believe he was doing both.
I've seen some of the footage of them making songs, but I've never heard them discuss to what extent Walter versus Donald is doing the lyrics versus the music. Are they equally proficient in both? And are you able to draw a line between what they do on one record and versus another?
Well, I think they both worked they worked incredibly well together because they challenged each other. Um, if you look at, say, a sidebar here, if you look at Lennon and McCartney, they never did anything as impressive alone as they did together. So I think there is something to that being challenged by someone you respect. But if I think back to Becker and Fagen, if you look at their solo works, I think it's pretty clear that Fagen's is much more impressive. Um, it's just catchier, it's jazzier, the songs are more well put together. It has that Steely Dan vibe because it's his voice still. He's working with incredible musicians, and that's not to denigrate Walter Becker, but I just think pound for pound, Fagen's solo work is more impressive. So that lends me to theorize that Fagen did more in Steely Dan, but I do know that they were incredible wordsmiths and they came up with lyrics together and they would work off of one another, say, "What do you think about this?" Um, but the sort of the secret weapon in like mid Steely Dan catalog was Larry Carlton. He played. Most average Steely Dan fans will probably know that Larry played the solo on Kid Charlemagne, which is one of the best solos of all time.
Hmm.
So Donald and Walter would come up with these songs. They would start writing them, and they would basically give the rough draft to Larry, and they would say, "Jazz it up, throw some jazz extensions, throw a little substitution in here, add a chord there." So it was definitely Fagen and Becker's brainchild. They were the gasoline behind this Steely Dan car. But as they expanded, Mr. Larry Carlton came in and gave them like that extra jazzy juice. So I reached out to a couple places in Fort Wayne over the last 3 years and never got a call back. And I just kind of put it to the side. And then a fan actually messaged us personally um, in our personal inbox and said, "Hey, I know the person that books for the Baker Street Center, and would you be interested?" I said, "Yeah, we're interested in looking at every opportunity." And the people that run Baker Street have been so awesome to work with. They've been easy to get on the phone. They've been very easy to strategize with to try to make this the best show possible. And so that's what brought us to Fort Wayne. It's close, and a venue just kind of fell in our lap.
Kevin Campbell, you have been a wonderful guest on Tribute Bands Are Us. Thank you for what you're doing a service to the community, in my estimation, by bringing Steely Dan to places where they can't or don't perform, and you're bringing the Steely Dan experience to my ears and to my eyes and to the Fort Wayne community. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Joe. The pleasure's all mine. Thanks for having me today.
Bye.